to help our investment pros this Friday. Hillary Kramer, A&G Capital's CIO and president. Jim Frischling, NewOak Capital president. Scotty Nell Hughes, TP. It's broad. The businesses have real profits, real revenues. Is that your take as well, Jim?
I mean, overall, that is my take. I mean, without Charles here, I get to freely talk about the enthusiasm or the confidence that investors are having right now in central banks globally. And while this, and even this.
So you're saying part of it's false?
No, I'm saying that Matt talked about relative value. It's the best game in town, and I continue to believe that. In an environment where savers, you cannot keep your money in
well,
CDs.
savers are punished.
And savers are punished, and then that's why I think utility stocks and dividend payers are interesting. I love Matt's point about the NASDAQ stocks that are paying dividends. These are maturing companies. So the fact is, equities on a global basis, certainly here in the U.S., represent the best risk-reward, I believe, in part because of the global central banks. And look, Germany and Greece just found a way to kick the can down the road, for lack of a more overused cliche, but that's what they've done, and expect them to continue. They're not going to let Greek exit. And while I don't think the U.S. has great exposure to Greece, the fact is the ECB is now welcoming Greek bonds.
Even Greece, I think, wanted that, right? If you look at the Greek finance minister, I mean, by all accounts, he's somewhat like the world's #1 expert in game theory. We know you're not going to come all the way over here, but if I push it all the way over here, you have to meet me somewhere in the middle, and he pulled it off.
I love how far to the left he went to win the elections, and how maybe not centric, but how centrist they're getting in order to cut a deal with Germany.
On Monday,
did you see that Boston mayor, by the way, telling people not to jump out the windows into their snowbanks?
It's the new like water challenge.
Yeah, I know.
Water over your head, jump out of a window onto a snowbank.
I never knew that I knew so many people in Boston before I looked at my Twitter feed.
And Kentucky,
of course, Apple, and we've been saying even just in the past 2 days, I keep saying this, but a new all-time high for Apple.
And look, they have a ton of cash. They're going to
$178 billion.
They're going to have a capital investment plan that actually is buying back shares. Dividends are going to increase. They're going to continue to spend money in R&D. So I have a hard time thinking that Apple won't continue.
And Carl Icahn, right, saying, Apple, what are you kidding? It's $1 trillion, he said, is where it's going to hit, and he's making some bets on that. All right. As you mentioned Tesla, Jim, $178 billion. You just referenced that's just the cash that Apple has, like doing nothing with financing. Why doesn't Apple just buy Tesla?
And by the way, that may very well happen. Although, look, I think Apple's in a unique situation where they can increase dividends, they could buy back shares, and yet they could be an incredible R&D shop. I also think people are raising the bar in terms of they think everything Apple does is going to be the iPad or the iPhone. Fact is, iWatch may prove to be a very nice product for them. It won't be the next iPhone. iPay has proven to be a home run for them. So where they take the iCar, the truth is I don't know, but the fact is they have the cash to do it.
It's interesting you said iPad, because now we're all addicted, or at least I am. It took 4 years. Do you remember when that product was announced? Everybody was like, what a stupid name. Nobody's going to use this. And now it's just as much in the
virtually
halo
replacing laptops, at least in many situations. So I think they can be uniquely innovative while still actually rewarding shareholders, again, with terms of dividends and buybacks.
And Scotty, you have your take.
Look, the data doesn't lie.
Jim's like, look, I'm really busy. You can't do the
data doesn't lie, but it's science. It's the testosterone, I understand it. So it's not our fault.
Which is an awful lot like, all right, this is good.
It's not our fault. Women produce about 10% of the testosterone that men do, and that makes us act a certain way. But to reference Paul Tudor Jones, not my comment.
This is a rather worrying kind of logic to go on,
Paul Tudor Jones, not Jim Frischling, says that women tend to lose focus when they have a child.
Okay, let me tell you
Paul Tudor Jones said,
it's true. I want you to know
here because between the three of us.
No, Jim, there is really something to be said for that. And Paul Tudor Jones took so much heat, and he took back those comments basically and said, no, that's not the case.
After he was like shouted down by a few
but I have to say that part of the secret to my success, maybe most of the secret to my success, is by surrounding myself with really good professionals, because it's investment world.
Men or women.
Mainly men, because that's the nature of the world I'm in. But it takes a team, and I think that's also what makes a really great woman investor.
I like the topic a lot. And I know GoPro, for example, is the high flyer. But Ambarella, AMBA, makes all the chips that go into every camera that GoPro sells. And the fact is, GoPro might have margin squeezes, might have turnover, might have insider selling. They're the ones getting all the headlines. But Ambarella continues to feed that machine with chips. And I think that to me is under the radar.
Which is a great idea, because this is the idea of the ecosystem, right? Yes. Even if, for example, GoPro is not your camera of choice, these chips are going in all of these cool, fun cameras.
Correct. And I think GoPro is going to really be a camera company, less of a media company, which is why, but they're going to sell a lot of cameras. And Ambarella is going to benefit from everyone
ask any skier, ask any snowboarder, ask any hiker, canoer, they usually have GoPros. All right.
Let's stay on Google for a second. You mean the company that reads my emails, Gmail, which is theirs for the taking, the company that actually sells my information all over the place, Google's the one that's going to be the champion of privacy. Matt, I thought I was going to be the contentious one, because actually actually, I'm like, go hack away. The fact is, I just came back from Dubai. Their security is maintained in part because they are all over your SIM cards, your phones, your travel, your computer, because they decided that is the best for security. So yes, it's going to cost some civil liberties. I hate to say it, but I think the trade-off in terms of security is the right answer.
Let's put it back in a U.S. context. Let's just say you're writing to your buddy, hey, I'm traveling. Then does it bug you to see every single vacation? Sort of, you don't care?
No, it does bother me, but that is happening. So as far as I'm concerned, if the government feels, and right now to a certain extent, that we need to raise the bar for our national security to get into these computers, that to me I'll have to accept.
Now, wait a minute. We don't want that. I'm all for cybersecurity.
You can't have it both ways, though.
Well,
no, yes, you can have it both. Go through a judge, get a warrant to go.
No, you can't have it both ways.
You really just want to give the government free pass to your life.
But then we have to accept the fact that we will have a lesser security system.
So Jim is saying put up or shut up,
yes,
right?
You have to choose.
Hey, profile.
I think, look, the cybersecurity clearly is a big issue. Clearly, more money's going to be spent. But I have to say, looking at a lot of the players now, especially the pure cyber security firms, they're trading at very high levels. Now, it doesn't mean they can't go higher. And in fact, I think as an acquisition target, that is probably the best way to get the next leg up, as large companies are going to need to, rather than build it themselves, are going to have to start absorbing these companies.
But remember,
so they
with
can
the
go
Sony
further.
hack, to your point, I mean, I'm sure these companies are up because they said, okay, listen, 90% of U.S. corporations would be as vulnerable as we were. So 90% is a big number.
But the PEs of these companies are really off the charts.
And asked him about the bloody sock incident from the 2004 ALCS. Now, the joke was on him because that incident was all about Kurt Schilling, a pitcher for the rival team, the Boston Red Sox. So, Jim, as a fellow Yankees fan, how horrified are you? Scale of 1 to 10.
I'm probably only around a 7, 7.5.
Right.
I'm not
so
Red
infuriated. Sox. It wasn't just any other team.
And it was also Schilling, and it was obviously the bloody sock, and it was the game that really cost us the World Series. I'm going to respect it. It was the Saturday Night Live after party. I imagine a few cocktails were shared. On this worst day, I can't understand how Wells and Schilling actually get confused.
Maybe they're just like a little portly. Is that the polite term?
He said ouch because I think he feels that he might be a little bit more of the gentlemanly than maybe Boomer, the David Wells pitcher. But I do think it's really interesting about the story, even in the sports story, is that live content is where they can make money. Sure. And sports over music. Music sales are waning. So Jay-Z has actually making his move. Rock Nation just separated from
CAA, that was a big move. That's like a divorce.
And an absolute divorce because he thinks he can make his money in live sports and with these players. So to a certain extent, he's going to have to get a little more up to speed or arm himself with a great assistant.
So you're right. If you're going to hang out your own shingle, you better rock it.
He's been a basketball fan. I mean, there's not I guess it's a Brooklyn Nets game that he's always out on the front row. So now he's going to...
But Jim, you're an investor, but you're also a business owner. For people who don't know, you have diners, you have other businesses. What does this mean for you?
Well, look, actually, I think at this point I don't want Obamacare scrapped because the cost associated with Obamacare, even during its incubation phase, our insurance costs went up dramatically. The uncertainty had our providers need to protect themselves, and they passed the cost down to us. So while our insurance costs continue to go up, they're now going up at a far lower level today because at least there is some clarity on how it's going to work. So
this is for your restaurants and your diners?
Well, mainly for the finance, for NewOak Capital, where we have now over 200 employees. The insurance, first of all, human capital is our highest expense, as it should be and always will be, and providing benefits in a meaningful way is very expensive. The uncertainty around Obamacare caused our expenses to go up 19% in 1 year.
So even if it's not the plan that you like, you just have to live with it, and you don't want.
I'm prepared to say I want to live with this because to scrap it would actually cause that uncertainty again, which would actually
cause
premiums
go up again.
And our premiums are going to go up even more.
Business or individuals right now.
The deadline was Sunday, but extended.
800,000 people got the wrong form. It really affected 50,000 people. Of the 800,000 who got the wrong form, 50,000 of them had filed their taxes and now need to do a redo. So we're talking about still a very small number.
Love it or hate it, from a PR perspective.
So I think this is a great idea for them.
If we let the government into our computers, they'll stop that activity from happening. But
because that's what you want is the government controlling your computer.
But I will say, I think commend to YouTube for doing this. My brothers and my sister-in-laws who have children, I think this is a win for parents to actually. Kids are getting devices earlier and earlier, and having an app as powerful as YouTube and have it be with parental controls. That's a great thing.
Yeah, and I'm still.